Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Ale. Welcome back to My World of Stocks, and welcome back to our budget community portfolio series. This time for the month of November 2025. Now, chapters are down below in case you need to skip past this intro or anything else. But for anyone new here, this is not my larger private portfolio. I was actually going to do a video for that one last month, but I ended up getting sick and kind of just threw all of my plans into whack. So I'll just be making that video for you guys later this month. But instead, this series right now is for my much smaller on a budget public portfolio where I only deposit $100 each month into this new account that I created from scratch. And then I use that money to invest in stocks, some of which is also influenced by you guys through various polls, comments, and messages that you send me, especially on Discord. And then I do an update video once a month here on YouTube, separated by two parts. First, we cover how the portfolio has been performing so far with all the trades we made last month in October. And that's followed immediately by part two, where I then cover how each individual stock is performing so far, either up or down, and what I plan to buy in this current month here in November, which, by the way, the market is actually experiencing some pretty heavy declines on individual stocks on an individual basis right now. I'm seeing a lot of volatility out there, and I am absolutely loving it. So I can't wait to share with you guys some of the stocks that I'll be buying the heaviest this month that I just think are at incredible prices. Excuse me. Before we start, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you'd like to get full access to this portfolio as well as our private community Discord, where you can reach me, hang out with other members, and even get access to my daily stock trade where I post a new stock purchase every single day, then you can get access to all of that and more by supporting me on Patreon. Link is in the description. And by the way, I recently added a new feature for Patreon members where you can watch my videos early and commercial free on there too. So just another reason of many to check that out. And of course, thank you to all of my amazing patrons and supporters out there. I couldn't do this without you. So thank you very much for that support. And lastly, just a heads up, we do use SoFi for this account, which I'm a big fan of. It's completely free. It's got fractional shares, no fees, and you can even do a lot more on there, like creating a Roth IRA completely free too. So I highly recommend you give it a try. If you use my referral link down in the description, you'll even get a bonus $25 worth of stocks absolutely free too. So might want to check that out. But with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into part one now. Let's take a look at how the portfolio is holding up so far and all the moves that we made last month in October. All right, so jumping into it here, like I said, the market has actually been experiencing some volatility on individual stocks, especially because of earnings season going on right now. However, because our portfolio is so well diversified, it actually still rose about 3% last month, despite us having several stocks that are actually dipping pretty hard, which I will show you in just a second when we go over to part two. But I just want to emphasize this point here about diversity because I do often get some heat for owning so many different stocks in this portfolio. But my counter argument to that is that because we are so well diversified like this, we can actually still have several stocks falling pretty hard, and yet the portfolio still outperforms and is positive. And regardless of that, in fact, we continue to break new record highs all the time, having now reached close to $3,600 in this account after rising a whopping 38% all time. So we're doing very well. And by the way, there's still close to $400 of this money here just sitting in cash, which is of course stagnant. So when you exclude that, our actual stock investments are up even more at a massive 44% gains in total. And that's pretty good for only having the account open here for like about 2 years. Now, having said that, I did just go slightly over budget this past month, spending $105 in October, for which I also ran a few polls to see which stocks you guys preferred, including this one on Patreon, where I asked you guys which of our 10 largest positions should we add more of, to where we actually had a super rare three-way tie. It was between Google, Extra Space Storage, and NVIDIA. So I ended up having to make an executive decision on which one of those to buy. And I ended up choosing EXR because of how much it was dipping post earnings, which I actually thought were pretty good. We'll talk more about that in just a second here when we look at that stock and others too. After that, though, I did also run this poll on Discord where I asked which of our worst performing stocks should I buy more of. And surprisingly, we actually had a two-way tie this time between Extra Space Storage and Vici Properties, with 17% of the votes going to each one of those. And I just went ahead and purchased Vici this time, though, instead, who's also dipping pretty hard, but they are probably my overall favorite REITs in the entire market right now. It's close with EXR. I like both of those a lot, but I gave the slight edge to Vici just in terms of their business, how much I like them right now. But then finally, I ran this poll too here on YouTube, where I asked which of these big dividend payers should I buy more of, to which Pfizer dominated the poll at nearly half of all the votes. So I added more Pfizer stock too. In total, though, here's how I spent the $105 in October. I purchased the most stock of Vici Properties at $35. Again, this is, I would say, my overall favorite REIT right now, perhaps tied with EXR, but I just think Vici's business is a little more attractive, I would say, for the longer term. So that's the one that I'm buying a little heavier at the moment, but both have some awesome dividends too, by the way. And I also spent $15 on Tyson Foods, another great dividend pair, and just an all-around world leader in meats and poultry. It's a stock that I think is severely undervalued right now by the market, and it's one that I don't think is ever going away. So I'm loading up while I can. Then I also spent $10 each on each of the following here: Amazon, who actually crushed earnings and it proceeded to soar in price. So I'm happy to see that. Although I kind of wish we had a bigger position in Amazon already. So man, I would love to see some volatility going forward. I wish we could get lower prices. I actually, it's like, sometimes I say, oh, this stock is up a lot and I'm happy to see that. I'm actually not really that happy to see it. I would much prefer for basically all of our stocks to go down in price just so I could buy more, because I love them. I love these companies. I think they're incredibly strong. Amazon, obviously, and I wish the price was lower, but I guess unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the price soared on earnings. Phenomenal earnings as always from Amazon. EXR, another $10 of them. Again, second favorite REIT in the market right now. They fell on earnings. I actually think that this is a stock that is being heavily slept on in the market. I thought their earnings were pretty good. I even talked about it in one of my most recent videos. But I think that this is a stock, along with Vici and other REITs, that are going to absolutely climb much higher in a lowering rate environment, which is one that I think we're heading towards. Federal Realty, another REIT, but this is actually the only REIT that is also a dividend king in the entire market. And I think this one is also being heavily slept on. Pfizer, purchased more of them. Currently our biggest dividend payer, along with Verizon. Both of those are currently yielding over 7% each, which is very high. So got to be buying more of those. And then finally, just another $5 we spent on American Tower, who's another dividend paying REIT. I really like this one a lot right now too, and they're actually used by even Verizon for their cell towers. Okay, with all of that out of the way though, let's jump over now to part two, and let's take a closer look at how all of these individual holdings are performing so far. And I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm looking to buy here in this current month of November as well. Okay, so here's all the holdings on SoFi from the account. I do break these down into some custom charts though, so that it's easier to see for you, but everything does get posted in Discord in case you want to take a closer look at it later. But as of right now, we have right around half of the entire portfolio sitting in just 6 stocks alone, with Google still reigning supreme as my absolute largest, which I'm very happy about. And I also love having Amazon at number 3. Microsoft is also in the top 6. Love them a lot for their dominance, their stability that it brings to the portfolio. So I would actually like to have even more of those stocks, even though they are already some of our largest. While I would say Palantir and SoFi adds a little more growth potential to the top 6 there. And then EXR adds some strong dividends, which is further strengthened, by the way, by a few others just under that, especially Vici, Medtronic, and Tyson, very strong dividends there, and I would love to increase my exposure to some of those as well. I also like to buy a little more, I would say Verizon, mostly for the cheap valuation and the big dividend, as well as Meta, who actually dipped a little on earnings. Especially, I would love to buy a lot more of Duke Energy, who I also feel is one of the best energy plays out there in the market. So, having only around 2% exposure to each of those, I think we could definitely increase that exposure a little bit. That's something I'll be looking to buy more of. And then there's also just a few 1% players that I would really love to buy more of. Really feel like we have to do that. And especially given how low their prices are right now, with their yields rising by so much because of those dips. And that would include stocks like American Tower, Realty Income, Scott's Miracle-Gro, and Federal Realty. I really think picking up a lot more of those stocks in the coming month will benefit us a lot. And even in my larger private portfolio, I can tell you right now that these are stocks that I am eyeing very greatly and will be looking to load up on as well. This brings us, of course, to the performance portion where we look at how much each of these stocks is either up or down. And as you can see, we finally started to get some decent dips in our stocks with that growing red portion there kind of at the end of the chart there. But I'll zoom in here into each of these kind of sections so that's easier to see for you. So starting first with the double-digit gainers, Palantir continues to be by far our best performer, up over 600% so far. Although SoFi, Tesla, and even Alibaba are no slouches either, being up around 280, 160, and 110% each, respectively, as well. And of course, Palantir and SoFi, one of the reasons why those two are some of my largest positions in the portfolio is because they're just up by so much, performing greatly. We are also up pretty close to triple digits though, too, in both of Nvidia and even Google, who Google happens to be our largest holding. So I am very thankful to have that as our biggest holding and it being so performing so well. By the way, Amazon and Microsoft are both up around 30% each. Like I said before, I would actually like to buy a lot more of those. I would just say that as raw businesses, Amazon and Microsoft are arguably the two best in the entire world. So I just really feel like we have to have as much exposure to those as we can get our hands on. I don't like the fact that we are already up around, 20 to 30% on each of those, but I just feel that they're businesses that we got to have more of in the portfolio. So even though we are up on those, I'm still targeting those to be buying more of them in the coming month and even beyond that too. And by the way, so here's hoping for some market dips in the future, because if we could drag Amazon and Microsoft down a little bit, man, those would be just automatic pickups on any kind of dips in the future. So I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on those as well. Where things do start to get a little more interesting though is in the stocks that are not performing so great for us yet. The stocks that are either up only single digits or that maybe we're even negative on. And when looking at these, I can tell you right away here in the single digit performers, Scott's Miracle-Gro, SMG, Duke, and Realty Income, those are going to be prime targets for buying more of in November, especially because, by the way, each one of those, we only have around 1 to 2% exposure to each of them. So we've got a combination there in those stocks of not just a low price or low gains, but also in very little exposure to them. And that's something that we just have to make sure that we increase in the coming month, given the fact that they also pay some really attractive yields right now too. And then finally, we'll just note here the negative performers, where I feel like we have a wide variety of so many things to sample on. And this is for sure where we're going to be doing the most of our buying throughout the month. Like I said, we could get more exposure to just about anything here. I mean, we've got biotechs in Bristol Myers and Pfizer. We've got telecom in Verizon. We've got several REITs in Vici, Federal Realty, American Tower, and EXR. Again, like I've been saying for a while now, I think REITs is still one of the most undervalued, heavily slept on parts of the market, even as the market has been breaking new record highs. That's an area where I still see a lot of value. Also, though, in pharmaceuticals and also in telecom, like I mentioned with Verizon. So those are areas that I've been targeting, but we've even got like could get more food and meats exposure here with Tyson. All of these have dirt cheap valuations with sky high dividends. So I'm going to be loving to get my hands on as many of these shares as I can. Really want to have a big buying month here in November. And then for some riskier bets, we could even lower our cost basis on a couple other stocks too, like Adobe and C3. So like I said, November, it's going to be a big buying month. We're very likely going to go over budget this month because I just see way too many good deals out there in the market. And it's probably a decent time to just make use of some of those cash reserves that we've been building up in the portfolio too, just to make sure we take advantage of some of this volatility that we're getting right now because of earnings season. Earnings season is always a great time to just go out there and do a lot of heavy buying because you get plenty of volatility, plenty of good deals on some of your favorite stocks. But with all of that in mind, I did also deposit another fresh $100 into the account for the new month, which brings our total up to around 3680 now. And that leaves us with a cash ratio of around 13% too. Anyway, that'll do it for this month. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts or questions down below. I'd love to hear from you. And especially if you're a Discord member, we can chat much more on there too in greater length about any topic you want. But for now, I thank you so much for all of your support, my friends. I hope that you're all doing well out there. And I will catch you in the next one. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.